Lake Mead is sitting at 1,039.63 feet above sea level. Wednesday morning, August 19th, 2026. We are 189.37 feet below full pool. Upstream at Lake Powell, the gauge reads 3,519.5, 3 feet over 180 feet below full capacity and still dropping. 2 lakes, both falling, both sending the same signal. And today I want to connect those numbers to something that is happening inside your home's plumbing right now, that almost nobody in local water coverage is willing to explain plainly, a chemical process that is invisible, tasteless, and potentially far more consequential to your health than the drought statistics that dominate the headlines. Here is what is keeping me up at night. The city of Phoenix published its most recent annual water quality report, covering 2025. It is a public document. Anyone can pull it from the city's website. Buried inside the data tables is a measurement called total dissolved solids (TDs), and the Phoenix distribution system showed readings ranging from 464 to 716 parts per million during the reporting period. That wide range tells you something important. The water chemistry in a major western city is not stable. It fluctuates. It shifts. And those shifts create a cascading problem that begins at the reservoir and ends inside the copper pipes soldered into the walls of your home 30 years ago. Here is the mechanism. Water with elevated mineral content and variable chemistry behaves differently from the steady, dilute river water that Western utilities were built to treat. Its corrosivity index, a measurement of how aggressively the water attacks the surfaces it contacts, changes as the dissolved solid load increases and as treatment chemical concentrations fluctuate. When water becomes more corrosive, it begins attacking the infrastructure it flows through. And in the American Southwest, a significant portion of that infrastructure includes copper service lines, lead solder joints in homes built before 1986, and galvanized steel pipes in older retirement communities that have never been replaced. When corrosive water contacts lead solder or lead-lined brass fittings, the kind that were standard in plumbing construction for decades, it does not leave those materials undisturbed. It extracts them. Microscopic amounts of lead dissolve into the water flowing past, and that water arrives at your kitchen tap, your coffee maker, and your ice dispenser, carrying a contaminant that has no safe level of exposure for adults or children. The same process occurs with copper. Elevated copper concentrations in drinking water cause a metallic taste. They accelerate fixture degradation. And at high enough levels, they create genuine gastrointestinal health concerns. The federal response to this problem is a regulatory framework called the Lead and Copper Rule. Under this framework, utilities are required to monitor corrosion levels in their distribution system and apply what the EPA calls corrosion control treatment, typically adjusting the water's pH and adding chemical compounds like orthophosphates that coat the interior of pipes and form a protective barrier between the water and the metal. When that protective coating is maintained consistently, lead and copper remain in the pipe wall where they belong. Here's the part that makes me genuinely angry. Maintaining effective corrosion control is not a one-time engineering decision. It is a continuous, chemically precise balancing act that has to be recalibrated every time the source water chemistry shifts. And right now, the source water chemistry across the Colorado River Basin is not stable. It is variable in ways that legacy treatment systems were never designed to handle. Utilities are adding corrosion control chemicals formulated for one water profile, while the actual water arriving from a thermally stratified, concentrated reservoir has a different pH, a different alkalinity, a different buffering capacity. Keeping the chemical balance tight enough to protect every pipe in a city the size of Phoenix or Las Vegas, including the pipes inside your individual home, requires resources, staff expertise, and budget that many smaller desert utilities are stretched to maintain under current conditions. And here's what happens at the far end of the water line when the balance slips. A senior living community in the outer suburbs sits at the tail end of the municipal distribution grid. The water reaching those residents has traveled the farthest distance from the treatment plant. It has had the most time to react with the pipe walls. It has been in that pipe the longest. If the corrosion control chemistry has degraded even slightly during that journey, the water arriving at the kitchen faucet of a 72-year-old woman who drinks 8 glasses a day is carrying the outcome of that chemical failure directly into her body. Adults over 65 are not invulnerable to lead exposure. The established medical consensus is that there is no safe blood lead level for any age group. In older adults, elevated lead exposure has been associated with increased blood pressure, accelerated kidney function decline, and cognitive effects. These are not theoretical risks. They are documented physiological responses that develop slowly, without a single dramatic symptom. Precisely the way that a water line corrodes gradually, invisibly, until the damage is already done. There is a second biological challenge developing in the warming, stratifying waters of these shrinking reservoirs that compounds everything I just described. As Lake Mead and Lake Powell lose depth and as summer heat penetrates more deeply through the water column, the upper layers of the reservoir warm into temperature ranges that favor aggressive algae growth. Certain species of algae produce compounds called taste-and-odor molecules. Geosmin and 2-methylisoborneol are the two most common that do not pose direct health risks, but are detectable by the human palate at concentrations as low as 5 parts per trillion. They make treated water taste and smell like mud or mildew, even after chlorination. Utilities combating algae-derived taste and odor events have to add activated carbon filtration or ozonation to their treatment process, additional capital equipment, additional operational costs, all flowing eventually into the base rate on your monthly statement. Now here is something genuinely useful that I want to give you today, something you can act on before the week is over. Every water rate increase, every infrastructure bond, every treatment plant upgrade is reviewed and approved at what is called a rate case proceeding. It is a formal regulatory process where the utility files a detailed proposal with supporting financial documentation, and there is a public comment period. In most jurisdictions, that public comment period is legally required, and comments from ratepayers are part of the official record that the utility board must acknowledge. Most of these proceedings happen without a single resident in the room. The water district files its proposal. The public comment window opens and closes. The rate increase is approved. Your bill goes up, and the entire process happens in public with nobody there to represent the people paying the bills. So here is your specific action this week. Go to your city or water district website and look for the words rate case, rate study, or water rate proceeding in their news or public notices section. If a rate case is currently open or recently filed, you have a legal window to submit written comments. You do not need an engineering degree. You do not need a lawyer. You need to show up in writing and ask the utility to explain, in plain language, what infrastructure debt is being recovered through the residential base rate increase, and whether corrosion control protocols have been updated to account for shifting source water chemistry from declining reservoir levels. That question, asked formally in a rate case proceeding, becomes part of the official record. It has to be answered. And in a room that is usually empty, one informed homeowner asking the right question on paper changes the dynamic entirely. The gauge at Lake Mead reads 1,039.63 feet this morning. The number matters. But so does the chemistry of what remains in that water and the condition of the pipes it flows through on its way to your glass. I will be back at both gauges tomorrow morning. Real numbers. Nothing filtered. If this gave you something your utility board never explained, hit that like button right now. Subscribe and turn on the bell. Share this with someone you know who owns property or is managing a fixed income anywhere in the Southwest. Drop a comment below. Where are you watching from? And have you ever submitted a public comment to your water district during a rate case? Let us talk about it. Stay sharp out there.